I am Noah Shea, alum and grad assistant of LaSalle University's Solstice Master in Fine Arts and Creative Writing program. Welcome to the 7th in a series of 8 evening readings taking place here in Auburndale, Massachusetts, as a part of our July 2025 10-day residency, the start of our fall semester. For tonight's reading, first up, we will have faculty member Jennifer Murvin, who will be introduced by fiction student Amjad McDonald. Then we will have faculty member Gina Chung, introduced by fiction student Jill Sullivan-Kane. And we'll conclude with our new faculty member, Tara Betts, who will be introduced by alum Gina Ortiz. Amjad, come on up to the mic.
I'm short again. No. Okay. I'm so excited to be the one to get to introduce Jennifer Murvin to you. Okay. Good evening. My name is Amjad McDonald. I am starting my 4th semester in the fiction track here, and I'd like to just share a few words about our next faculty reader, Jennifer Murvin, okay? Jennifer Murvin is a prolific writer, a passionate professor, and the owner of an independent bookstore in Springfield, Missouri called Pagination Bookshop. She is a tenured professor at Missouri State University, where she teaches creative writing in the areas of fiction, nonfiction, graphic narrative, and literature. She teaches writing workshops at the nonprofit River Pretty Writers Retreat and is also a much-loved faculty member here at Solstice in her free time. Jen is a prolific creative who has won many, many awards and prizes. Her essays, stories, and graphic narratives have appeared in Craft, Fourth Genre, Hayden's Ferry Review, Longleaf Review, the Southampton Review, and numerous other literary journals. She has also published several comic books for children, including the series Chickasaw Adventures, Stories of the Saints, and McGraw-Hill's World History, Inc. Her chapbook, She Says, was published by Small Harbor Publishing, and the just-released nonfiction graphic narrative chapbook, False Alarm, is now available from Green Tower Press. And I have a personalized signed copy, which I'm very proud to own. Jen's collection of short stories, Real California Living, is forthcoming from Braddock Avenue Books. That's what I meant by prolific. I am in awe of Jen. Her energy is soulful, boundless, and contagious. She is the definition of an empath. She listens, she feels, she responds, she offers you all that she has to give. She is an open door to a world you want to step into, barefoot, her sunlight on your face, her breeze on your eyelids, her encouragement, a heart song. You will take it. She is not a vessel. She is a geyser, recycling what she receives, giving back with greater verve, making you wish you could always live inside her front vest pocket within earshot of her mind-blowing responses and reflections, her quick-to-cry reflex, quick to comfort humanity, and her tortured empathy for all those suffering around her. Jen refuses to stay silent as we tramp through the mundane of day-to-day, while others relive the horrors of history, become hunted and imprisoned, tortured and left to die. Jen will pour it all on the page and the world will be changed. Help me welcome a complicated daughter, a doting mother, a passionate teacher, an empathic friend, and our dear faculty member, Jennifer Murvin.
I was joking with my workshop that I'm on this new antidepressant that keeps me from crying. It's like a lifesaver, but it's weird because like the crying is happening, but it's like not which is why I needed it. But Amjad, thank you so much. You are so brilliant, and what a gift to spend this last semester with your brilliant critical essay in your mind and your fiction. And I am just so lucky to be here. I think about it every time I just look around the room and I'm like, Does that look like they asked me to be here? I hope. I just am very, very, very lucky. And I want to say thank you to Meg and to Q and to Noah and to Maurizio for such an incredible residency. I feel like every residency, but does every residency like become the best residency we've ever had? It's like, this is the best one. Okay, sorry, you're getting like a peek. Okay. No, okay, there we go. Perfect. I also want to say that I'm really honored to read with Tara and Gina tonight. I am your biggest fan, and same goes with everyone in this room. It's really an honor to spend time with you all. I'm going to read two essays. The first essay I'm going to read is Fertile, a graphic essay from my recent chat book called False Alarm. And I'm reading it because I read this at my very first residency at Solstice. And I was feeling a little bit like nervous about my comics, but just your encouragement and love really encouraged me to put my essays into a chat book and submit it. And that's why it is now out from Green Tower Press. So it's thanks to you all that, you know, your generosity and encouragement that this is now part of a book. So I'm resharing it. So my apologies to the graduating students. Pretend like you have never seen it. Okay, so this is called Fertile. It's a graphic essay. Everyone see that okay? Okay, great. Fertile by me. My sister wonders, okay, this is always the thing. It's like blocking on mine. So I might have to look over. Oh, here we go. Maybe this. Okay, I'm gonna start over. My sister wonders if the in vitro doesn't work, would I donate my eggs? Now it's not letting me click through. Hold on. Oh, here we go. All right. Technical difficulties. There we go. We are drinking wine in Arizona, where neither of us live. We have met here for vacation, 4 days, just us. Yes, I say. She is my little sister. Sometimes I still dream horrible nightmares of a big wave coming and I cannot reach her. I imagine my eggs wrapped in gold foil or dipped in shiny gloss, covered in glue and rolled in glitter. I will hide them in the yard, and it will be a game for her. She will hold a basket cushioned with paper grass, anticipating. At the resort, there is an orange grove. Outside our shared room, there is the smell of oranges and coffee. I cannot describe this heaven after a winter in Missouri. Words come to mind like bliss, euphoria. Nothing about the smell of these oranges can be overstated. I say this because in this moment in the wine bar, I imagine my eggs as oranges I pick for my sister, each ripe and full of seeds, which are simply more eggs for her choosing and her pleasure, for her pleasure and delight. We discuss. Would she rather give the hormone shots herself into her stomach or have her husband do it? She says, husband. I say, myself, which seems strange to us since she has always been the bold one. Maybe I say myself because I do not have a husband. Maybe I say myself because I did have a husband once. The orange grove is strung with small bulbs of lights that never turn on. The oranges are small and hard, but still orange. Earlier, I had taken a photograph of my sister as she reached for an orange, her body wrapped in a sarong. The word for orange is ripe. The word for a woman is fertile. Might be both involve a rounding, a fullness. The moment of fruition, which holds the word fruit, might be the moment of birth. Too early, too late, not good. Not good, as our grandmother might have said, holding a rotten tomato in her two ripe hands. If we had your egg, she says, it would be the closest to mine. I nod, my egg would be the closest. I could die under anesthesia, you know, she says. So could you. I am not afraid to go under. I will go under later, in the pool, into sleep, into the darkness of an orange grove far from home. A woman can produce anywhere from 3 to 30 eggs each month. My sister is tracking her follicles. A 20 millimeter follicle is ready for egg collection. An orange seed is 0.2 millimeters in diameter. I read, an egg is to a follicle as a seed is to a fruit. My sister is an orange grove, strung with lights like stars. On our way back to the resort, the Uber driver answers a call from his wife on speakerphone. It is an intensely personal conversation. She would like him to pick up the kids. When will he be home? He's just started his shift, honey. He could make a lot of money tonight. But what about bedtime? She asks. Who will put them to bed? He hangs up, apologizes. Oh, sorry. We say, don't worry. Oh. We say this at the same time, in the same inflection. We laugh, marvel at this. Do our eggs feel it? Little seeds, like the beads we used to string on friendship bracelets. We do not ask how the Uber driver's little children were made. We do not know who will put them to bed. I imagine hiding my eggs around the yard. Some are easy to find, others more difficult. One tucked into the branches of the plumeria, another beneath the eucalyptus. One in the grass, yellow and easy as a lemon. One in the rosebush, its slim thorns a small price for such a prize. Thank you, and that's kind of what it looks like all done. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm done with this. Okay. Oh, you get 2 of me. Oh, 3 of me. Oh, whoa. Yikes. That's a lot too many. Okay. I'm going to read a very short flash essay now. It's like a little, maybe speculative essay called Do or Don't or Do. You need to leave your husband and you do. When your son goes with his dad on Sunday, he takes different pieces of you with him. The finger you use to turn the page of his bedtime book, the ledge of hip where he perches when you hold him. At first, the tearing hurt, but now you have grown important calluses like when learning to play guitar. And on Wednesdays, you welcome him and also yourself home, reattaching with pleasure as you both appreciate puzzle and music. You need to leave your husband and you don't. He comes home drunk. He has run into a car and he did not want to stop to leave a note. He'd had a few beers. It might have invited attention. He just drove home. You get up from sleep, drive in the snow in your pajamas, find the car, leave the note in Sharpie. Another drunk husband runs over you in the street and doesn't want to invite attention, so he just drives home. And another drunk husband drives over you and on and over until you are covered entirely in snow and you are the road for more drunk husbands to drive on. You need to leave your husband and you do. Your husband's child support money is necessary to pay for your new house. And one morning you cough up a coin and you realize it is not a coin, but your old wedding ring, which you then sell for more money. And then you cough up the ring again, but you realize the money is necessary. So you are grateful even when you are choking. You need to leave your husband and you do. You take your son home to California with you for visits. And one day your son peels you like the tangerine in your parents' yard and you step out clean and open, nutritious, and your seeds can be planted to make new tangerines. You need to leave your husband and you don't. When you come home from a night out, he goes out for drinks. You fall asleep next to your son and wake up there with him. There is a fine mist where your hair used to be, and he flies his little toy airplane through your mist and it tickles the air and you both laugh as you call Mayday. You need to leave your husband and you don't. He becomes a millionaire within the year, and it is fun to play with your new paper husband, who is now a classy $100 bill. You fold him into an origami crane, and he flaps his way into a glass of scotch, and he becomes wet and unfoldable and flightless. You need to leave your husband, and you don't. At night you reach for him, but he is not there. You fall for every other man you see or meet or writes you, and eventually you fall too fast and tumbling down a canyon, and no one ever finds your body except for the sweet little animals who live through a winter because of you. You need to leave your husband, and you do. The child you lost in a miscarriage visits you in a dream in the shape of a bird. Your son calls out for water, and you bring him water in a pink glass, and he asks you to sleep next to him, and you both dream of birds, and together the three of you are singing in tangerine trees. You need to leave your husband, and you don't. You watch movies alone at night, and one day you find yourself in the television and you can't get out. The plexiglass is very cool against your forehead, cheek, and palms. Your son watches you at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, and you are his favorite show. You need to leave your husband, and you don't. You sit in the nicest hotel in the world. You wear a silk nightie. He is gone and gone. You do not know where he is. You hang the silk nightie on a towel rack, and it falls there like a woman whose insides have been blown entirely out, and you are the woman. You need to leave your husband, and you don't. On a trip to Hawaii, he smokes a cigar, and in his exhale of smoke is the shape of all the things he has done without you. You are snorkeling, and you disappear into a group of sea turtles, become a sea turtle. You swim to visit your sister thousands of miles away because she shares the same ocean. Your sister does not know the turtle is you, but she dreams of turtles for several nights and eventually adopts a tortoise as a pet. You need to leave your husband, and you don't. One morning, a tattoo of a woman's name appears on the back of your hand. A month later, another name in the curve of your neck. Over time, names cover your neck, your breast. You are a walking autograph book of women. Their names begin to whisper themselves, then speak, then scream, until you are a body of noise so loud your son covers his ears and runs away. You need to leave your husband, and you do. You fall into a deep sleep for days and days, and when you wake up, sunlight is filtering through the eucalyptus and avocado trees of home. The book on your nightstand is open, and when you walk into the book, you read the writing on the wall, and the words are yours. You need to leave your husband, and you do. You write a poem for your son, and it appears under his pillow at his dad's, and he writes you one back, and it appears under your pillow. And though you keep his door closed when he is not with you, your son comes back every time, and you are there. One morning, you reattach your missing part your son has handed back to you in a funny place to make him laugh. And you understand being whole can take different shapes, and you are a living sculpture. You need to leave your husband, and you do. Thank you.
Hi. Oops, I have things falling. Good evening. My name is Jill Sullivan-Kane, and I am a soon-to-be graduating Solstice student. I feel really privileged and honored that I get to introduce Gina Chung. There's so many things I'd love to say about her, but I have just a little bit of time. So, I'll just start with when we met. I met Gina, she came to visit the semester before she started, and we had lunch, and we had these like really awesome conversations about like ghosts and this like freaky hairbrush with like weird hair that kept like getting thrown out and reappearing in a vanity drawer, and astrology. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait till next semester. I hope that I get her like in some capacity in a workshop and mentor, like whatever. And I did end up getting both of those things. And as a result, I have so many, there's so many levels of things that I would love to say about her. On a human level, Gina is calm, steady, cool. She's like funny. She's unique. And I think above all, very authentic. She's like a super authentic person. I admire her greatly on a human level. As an instructor and a mentor, she is generous. She's insightful. She's organized. She understands like the hunger and the thirst that we have for learning the craft, and she delivers, and it's been really a privilege to work under her. As a writer, she's the dream. She's the inspiration. Her short story collection, Green Frog, and her novel, Sea Change. I'll talk about all of the awards and things that she she has received in a minute, but just on a personal level, as the daughter of an Asian immigrant, Vietnamese immigrant, I read her stories and I was like so many times brought to the verge of tears and or crying, because it was kind of like a voice in the stories that I think as a young person I would have loved to hear. Like I would have loved to like have that invitation to connect and understand and kind of know that that was out there, and it didn't exist in the 70s and 80s for me, 90s even, I think, in some ways. Gina's novel Sea Change was longlisted for the Center for Fiction First Novel Prize, the 2023 Barnes & Noble's Discovery Pick, an A. Paula Adult Fiction Honor Book Pick, New York Times Most Anticipated Book. Her short story collection Green Frog was longlisted for the 2024 New American Voices Award, Good Morning America Book Buzz Pick, and PR Best Book of the Year, 2024-25 A. Paula Adult Fiction Honor Book. She's received the O. Henry Prize for Short Fiction for The Arrow, Pushcart Prize winner for The Mantis. Her story Attachment Process was named a distinguished story in Best American Short Stories in 2023. I mean, they're amazing. If you haven't read them, like definitely they are an education on craft. There's so much more I want to say, but obviously I have only a limited amount of time, but I just wanted to tell this one last thing. Last night, while we were waiting for like the amazing reads, the reading experience last night, Gina and one of the Sarahs, and there's somebody in the ARC, and Jen Murvin, we were talking about plants, and Gina had like described this like story about her Monstera plant, which I had never heard. She said she had cut this little leaf off a plant and she like planted it, didn't really know a lot about it, and it like developed this like really ugly fungus and like gnats, and she lives in this like apartment in New York City. She's like, what am I gonna do with this? And like she really thought about abandoning it. She's like, no, I'm not gonna abandon it. And she got a garbage bag and she put on like dish gloves and she like went outside and she like did all the things that like we were like, this is what you need to do. And she's like showing pictures of it like it was her baby. She's like, yeah, now look at it. You know, it was like big leaves sprawling, and like she loves this thing. And the unique thing about it is that those big leaves on the top, they have these like striations, and I think she described them as like Swiss cheese, and their function is to like let in the light so that the lower leaves underneath can access the sunlight for the growth. And I was like, oh, Gina, you're the top leaf, man. You're the top leaf. I don't even know where she is right now, but yeah, Gina Chung, amazing human, teacher and writer. Please give me a very, help me give her a very warm and thunderous applause, because she's amazing.
You. Oh my God. Whew. Not gonna cry. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jill, for that introduction. And I'm screaming at that Monstera story now being something we all know. Wow. Thank you all so much for being here and for making this such an incredible, generous and kind and generative space. And for those amazing readings earlier, I was just sitting in my chair, like just reeling with delight and awe. I'm so in awe of everyone here. I'm so grateful to be here and to be a part of this community, which my first time coming, as Jill mentioned, was just last summer. And I already feel like this is home in a lot of ways. I'm especially grateful to Meg, Q, Noah, Maurizio, and everyone who has worked so hard to make this residency so smooth and so fun. It's truly such an accomplishment. And I'm beyond thrilled to be reading with Jen and with Tara, who are both so brilliant and funny and wise. And I can't believe I get to call them my colleagues here. So I'm primarily a fiction writer, but every once in a while I surprise myself by going into a fugue state and writing a poem. So tonight I want to begin. Thank you. So tonight I want to begin by reading a poem that I wrote. It's one of the first poems I've written in a really long time. And I wrote it in response to a prompt from the very brilliant poet and memoirist Jane Wong, whose work I really urge you to check out if you haven't. And the prompt was to write a poem in celebration of or in praise of a fruit or vegetable. And it's called Ode to a Korean Pear. Golden, smooth, rough, crisp, sweet globe, puckered like a lover's navel. You smell like water, like home, like something I don't have to ask forgiveness for. You are an unasked for gift from a mother I don't know how to speak to, a mother who longs for me to be more like other daughters, who is learning how to accept this one. When she gives you to me, I taste iron, thinking, here is yet another thing I don't need from her. Still, I'm sorry I let you linger for so long, leaving you to keep company with my wrinkled apples, my lemons marbled turquoise with neglect, my strawberries furred and forgotten. I'm bad at feeding myself, at feeding others. So unlike my mother, who, even when we'd soured to one another, rot vinegaring our voices, always made sure I ate. The internet is another kind of mother, a pale 3 a.m. supermarket of videos and recipes on how to braise, brine, batter, boil, all the dishes I grew up never craving because they were always there, salted by her blue-rivered, knife-scarred hands. I used to trace each veined tributary with my own slow fingers, marvel at how quick and clever hers were. I watched a video for how to court you, oh pair. Unsheathe your cold juiced kiss. English subtitles teach me to de-ribbon, cut out the parts that can't be digested. And when I finally unfurl you whole, I am not sure who has peeled who. Thank you. And so that was a poem about Korean pears and also mommy issues. And so now for something a little different, I'm going to read from a short story in my collection, Green Frog, and it's called The Love Song of the Mexican Free-Tailed Bat. And this is a daddy issues story. By the time you have finished in your father's study, it is almost 4:00 p.m. Texas is experiencing an unseasonably cold snap this November, and you are shivering while you tie up old newspapers and water-rippled editions of Time and National Geographic for the recycling bins outside. You have been wearing your father's old puffer vest all day, the ratty one that has down coming out of it and that your mother always hated. And when you bury your nose in the collar, you don't know what you're expecting to find exactly. Maybe some remnant of his smell, the slightly mildewy scent of a man who never let his things sit in the dryer for long enough, but all you smell is stale coffee. You have already bundled most of his clothing into donation bags, but you will put the vest inside your suitcase and at the end of your week-long stay, take it back with you to New York City, where it will hang for months, untouched, in the closet of your tiny, overheated apartment like a reproach. After this week, you will never wear it again. In fact, you will have forgotten that it is there until one day in late March, when a guy you sometimes sleep with when you're both bored and single will find it and put it on as a joke. You will feel a pang of loyalty to the vest and tell him to take it off in a voice sharper than you had intended. Once he has left your apartment, you will put it into a plastic bag and take it to Goodwill. You are here in Austin because no one else in your family could be. Your mother, who moved back to Seoul after the divorce, and your sister, Joan, married and pregnant in Boston, who is now, as she told you over the phone, as big as a house that swallowed another house. Both had reasonable excuses for not being able to come. But the truth is that you are the only one in your family who was on speaking terms with your father before he died. And even now, your mother and your sister do not want to have anything to do with him. So it has fallen on you to travel all the way out to Texas to pick up the ashes from your father's cremation and to clean his house, the house that you grew up in.
Yesterday, when you got the news via a voicemail from someone at the university where he had taught biology for the last 20 years, that your father had died of a heart attack at home, alone, and surrounded by stacks of research with a single moldy peanut butter and jelly sandwich next to him, you were sure that you'd gotten some bad intel. For one, your father would never have eaten a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, at least not voluntarily. He had always hated peanut butter, didn't like the way it clung to the inside of the mouth like a hug that went on for too long. When the voicemail notification popped up on your phone, you had been preparing for meeting a difficult client. Your boss always gives you the demanding ones because you have developed a reputation for toughness, that rare ability, at least in a woman, at least according to your boss, to put an important man in his place without offending him. After listening to the voicemail, you stood up, turned your computer off, and went home. You called Joan as soon as you got outside. Then you called your mother as soon as you got home. The next day, you packed a suitcase without seeing anything you put inside it, called a cab to the airport, and got on the first flight to Austin. Your visit coincided with the arrival of a pop star for a multi-day stop in the city, and the airport was filled with excited fans wearing t-shirts emblazoned with the pop star's face. You considered buying a t-shirt too, just to feel like you were part of something, and for an instant you thought about getting your father one as well before remembering he was dead. Then you laughed until you cried while driving out of the airport in your rental car at the idea of your balding, bespectacled father, a figure you had feared and revered while growing up, but who couldn't have been more than 5'6" in his socks, wearing tour merch. Your first stop was your father's office at the university to meet with one of his graduate students. You parked crookedly and waited impatiently for him to show up in the lobby of the building. He, a tall white boy with wild flyaway hair and big unfashionable glasses, was 10 minutes late. "Hi, I'm Benjamin," he said, like it was a question. You squinted at him and barely shook the proffered hand. He was significantly taller than you, but he had a spine like a candy cane and a slouch so self-effacing that you instantly felt at ease around him. "I was the one who called you," he said. "Right, thanks," you said. "Are those his things?" He was carrying a cardboard box with several tears in it that had been patched up with duct tape. He loaded it into your car and then gave you the house keys. "I hope it's not weird that your dad gave me those. I used to house sit for him sometimes." "How did you know my father again?" "He was my advisor. I was writing my thesis on the mating calls of Mexican free-tailed bats," he said self-consciously, like you were about to ask him for the abstract. To your horror, he seemed for a moment about to cry. "Your father meant a lot to me," he said. He gave you his number. "I lost my mom last year, and I would have given up on my PhD if your father hadn't been there for me." You didn't have time to consider the import of what Benjamin had said until you were in the car again, when you realized that he had looked up to your father, that for Benjamin, he was a trusted mentor, someone other than the man that you grew up with. The resentment you felt at this stuck in the back of your throat, like peanut butter. When you got to the house, you were stunned by how familiar it still felt, even though you had not been back in years. All the shades were drawn, except for the one over the window of what used to be your childhood bedroom, which was only half drawn. From the driveway, it looked like the house was slowly winking at you. You turned the ignition off and wiped your sweaty hands on the steering wheel. They have already taken his body away, you reminded yourself. But trepidation still knocked against your heart as you fumbled with the house keys and unlocked the door. Inside, the air was musty. Dirty dishes teetered in the kitchen sink, the crusts of yellow yolk hardened on their rims. There were books, research journals, papers piled on top of almost every available surface. You opened the windows to let in some light and air, and then you saw it, the huge flight cage in the backyard. You walked outside to inspect it, noticing that the grass was almost as tall as your knees. Your father had constructed the cage himself out of metal piping and netting after your mother finally left him. Hanging from the ceiling of the cage like soft Christmas tree ornaments were small brown balls of fur, the bats your father loved more than anything else in the world. Most of the bats were sleeping, but one of them opened its eyes when it heard you. It had velvety, petal-like ears, and its upturned nostrils quivered when you approached the cage. It stared at you appraisingly and clicked twice before deciding that you were not a threat. Bats use their sense of smell to determine who to mate with, to sniff out a partner with a gene pool most divergent from their own. There are studies showing that humans do the same thing, but you have yet to see any evidence in your personal life that the smell test has helped anyone avoid heartbreak or disappointment. Most humans you know, including yourself, are notoriously bad at deciding on a mate. You wondered what this bat could tell about you from the way you smelled. Could it smell grief, anger, love? Or did it detect a heady cocktail of all of the above, spiced with notes of your sweat and hormones? Do bats miss the smell of one another when one of them dies? Here are all the other things you know about these bats. The Mexican free-tailed bat has a wingspan of 11 inches across and the eager, not unadorable face of a pocket gremlin. Its tiny fangs include an upper third molar, which is used for grinding insects. Unlike other bat species, it has a small freestanding tail extending below its clawed feet, which it uses to navigate. You know these facts like you know that Joan has always wanted to be a mother, unlike you, and that her left eye twitches when she's trying not to cry. That's why your father, as a young physics student at UT Austin, newly arrived in the States from Gwangju, had changed his course of study to the less prestigious field of biology. He loved them, their squashed dog-like faces and their bright, inquisitive eyes. He was the one who told you that, contrary to popular belief, bats actually had wonderful eyesight. Joan was frightened of bats, screamed on the few occasions when a confused young pup flew into the house by mistake. But your father taught you to love them, and sometimes he took you with him on his research trips to the caves in San Antonio. You would stand next to him, feeling the damp chill of the wet cave walls, breathing in the funk of the bats while listening to them click in the dark. Goddamn tourists, your father muttered whenever he found cigarette butts or crushed beer cans in the dirt. You and your appa are two of a kind, your mother used to say when you were little, shaking her head. At first, you liked the idea of being similar to your father, who you thought was the smartest person in the world. But as time went on, it became clear that this was not always a good thing. Your father was a difficult, prickly man, prone to bouts of rage that seemed to appear out of nowhere. As a child, you became well-versed in reading the ever-shifting weather patterns of his moods, and you learned how to tiptoe around the landmines of his outbursts. When you entered your teens, you learned how to marshal your anger whenever you became the target of his rage, to raise your voice against his until it felt like the windows of the house would shatter. You had epic fights about the right way to parallel park a car, your first boyfriend, whom your father frightened so badly the first time you brought him home that he tried to break up with you the next day, the fact that you wanted to go to NYU instead of the university in town. But he was strangely proud of you, proud of what he called your fearlessness and inability to be daunted. Even now, you are at times awestruck by the power of your own anger, which can seem like an ungovernable force of nature, a storm spinning out of control and leaving broken dinner plates and cracked phone screens in its wake. At times, you are not sure where your anger ends and your father's begins. It is fashionable now to talk about angry women, how great it is to be a woman and actually get to show anger. What is not so fashionable is to be the kind of woman who gets angry about the wrong things or in the wrong way. And of course, what no one talks about is that not all women get to be angry in the same ways. 6 months ago, after you threw his phone across the room during an argument, your last boyfriend, Jeff, had told you that you needed to start seeing someone about what he called your anger issues. That it wasn't normal for someone to be so upset all the time, that it had become difficult to be around you. You had tried to argue with this, saying that there was nothing wrong with you or your anger. In fact, you wanted to tell him your anger had actually served you well in life, at least professionally. At work, you have successfully managed to bend and hammer the molten, white-hot anger you so often feel at your clueless male boss and colleagues into a shiny, hard alloy that you use to shield yourself. The Terminator, they call you in the office. And part of you loves it. But you didn't say any of that because you knew that he was right, that something inside you had broken and bent a little too far over the years in the service of your anger and was now perhaps beyond repair. And instead of admitting it and saying you were sorry and asking him to stay, you told him to get out of your apartment and your life. Your father would have done the same thing, you think now as you drag the garbage bins out to the curb. He could never admit when he was wrong or when he was suffering. Once, when you were in high school, your father got into a fight with another man in the school parking lot after he came to pick you up from debate club. The man, who was another student's father, had pointed out that your father had scratched the side of his car. After about 2 minutes of an increasingly heated back and forth, your father had begun shouting and threatening to hit the other man. You were in tears, trying to hold his arms back and begging him to stop because everyone else in the parking lot was staring. But he didn't hear you and no one came to help. And finally, the other man got back into his car and drove away. Later, in the driveway in front of your house, your father killed the engine and turned toward you. Don't tell your mother about this, he said quietly. Now go on inside. But 20, 30 minutes later, your father was still in the car. And when you went back outside to check on him, you saw that he was crying, his shoulders shaking and his head bent over the steering wheel. You were frightened then, in a way that you had never been at his rages, at the notion that the same man who could come to blows with a stranger over something as inconsequential as a scratch could weep like a child afterward. Thank you.
So grateful for so many things, including all of you, Megan Quinton's fearless leadership, my poetry compatriots, Doug and Kathleen, and all the wonderful poets who've been in my workshop, and also Noah and Mauricio for making this thing run. So we can real quick, I'll thank somebody else who's visiting tonight. We have special guests from outside of Solstice. My friends Shandy and Kyle brought one of the smartest readers and lovers of stories that I know. And this is their first reading tonight. So I would like to introduce 4-year-old Ellison, if you want to wave to everybody. Thank you. You know, he might ask questions about the reading, so look out. He'll be like, listening to the news and he'll ask you about stuff in the news. Very smart little man. So I'll read a couple poems from my book and I'll read some new work. Earlier today, I was talking with Doug and he's working on a new manuscript that starts with an epigraph from Nick Hornsby's High Fidelity. And I have a high fidelity poem in the book. High Fidelity. Cusack declares what you missed about Chicago, how the places with the best music and art tucked themselves into dingy and cramped places. That's not romantic, it's what it was, and you ate food built to insulate you from the hawk, air talons that cut your face, how the L over Damon makes cameos in the background, how this scene is about love, or at least amicably sharing a bed, then having a beer because it gets cold. Why not talk when your love moves out as you debate the top 5 loves of your life, as if a person could ever be the stew of the best 5 albums you could hold in one hand, or the 10 best R&B songs ever recorded. People play themselves like a tape over and over, yet there is always one that throws that in that one single that we forgot we knew or expected. We wait to put the needle to their etched curves, to rewind in a deck or twist with a pencil so that song plays, and maybe go back and find more. If you don't know what the pencil is for, look it up later. There's, I need to get a t-shirt with that, but that's another story. I think this book takes more of a turn. I've always had a turn toward hip hop, so I'm going to read a hip hop poem from the book. Listening to Raekwon's Ice Cream. If you don't know Wu-Tang, they're doing their final tour. It's your last chance. This is their retirement tour. Method Man has said he wants to hang out with his grandson. So anyway, listening to Raekwon's Ice Cream. A revved up piano loop rotates Earl Clug's A Time to Love into tinkling ice cream trucks. Except one MC stands on a white truck and swings his walking stick and recites the familiar hook over beats. Each series of rhymes tries to woo a girl from around the way who must always remain cool, uninterested. Even then, don't be thirsty was a rule. Another MC asks if her name is Erica, calls her Black Miss America. Right? True? She offers a smirk. Other women dance around the truck in white ringer tees with black trims, emblazoned with curved capital W's above the letter turned symbol. Each woman is a flavor: French vanilla, butter pecan, chocolate deluxe, even caramel sundaes. What woman who wants to be cherished and whole would be edible, sweet, an object? What woman wouldn't want to be wanted, held, savored, licked, and called sweet if one chooses to be? I always have issues with people who do a lot of dog and cat poems. But I have a dog poem, so I said, I'm gonna read my dog poem tonight. So here we go. Priest the Pit Bull. Priest the Pit Bull greeted me the first day he moved into my building. His tan fur shining as he wiggled. At least 3/4 of his body wagged when I patted his head and stroked his sinew back. His mouth open and panting made up at least half of his face, full of teeth, but gently smiling. I called his name, shouted to him and the other neighbors when I heard his ticking claws on the hallway tiles. I'd laugh about Ron O'Neal playing his namesake in Superfly, and he'd quietly trot over and let me pet him. He never needed a leash. Nothing felt like fear gnashing its teeth into the back of my hand. I make it a habit to return kindness to other living beings, even when the world marks them as dangerous. And if I was remiss in thanking my four readers tonight, my companions and colleagues, thank you, Gina and Jennifer. We've had a lot of fun at night in the lounge. And one of the things we've had fun with is sharing social media clips. And this next poem kind of came out of me looking at stuff on TikTok, because if you're aware of what was happening a couple years ago, everyone was listening to Kanye a little bit still. And and he actually used a sample of his mother reading a Gwendolyn Brooks poem in the Praise God song. And it went viral. Like, everybody was putting it in their TikTok videos. And if you hear it, it's actually his mom, Dr. West, saying, usually people hear it and they go, even if you're not ready for the day, it cannot always be night. And then the beat drops like, oh, and you're like, so, it's actually from a line by Gwendolyn Brooks. The poem is called Speech to the Young, Speech to the Progress Toward. Google it, read it, it's beautiful. And it's a motivational poem. So, are you ready? Even if you are not ready for the day, it cannot always be night. Gwendolyn Brooks. Even if you're not ready for anything Black, it cannot always be white. Even if you're not ready for the women, it cannot always be the men. And even if you're not ready for the spectrum, it cannot always be a binary. And even if you're not ready for the poor, it cannot always be the rich. And even if you ain't ready for the thickness, it cannot always be a bone. And even if you're not ready for the fight, it cannot always be the dance. And even if you're not ready for the dance, it cannot always be the fight. Even if you're not ready to begin, it cannot always be the end. I'll read another short one and I'll close with a slightly weird one. No, maybe I'll do the weird one. Since we're doing music, this is a Frank Ocean inspired poem. Yeah, we're doing the music. Okay. It's gonna be in this anthology called The Overturning, but it's like all poems about Roe v. Wade. And they made me call it The Vessel in the book, but I'm calling it Pink Matter, so don't tell them. But Pink Matter. Sitting in a dive bar with an ancient wood counter, dark antique shelves stocked with bottles, R&B songs wheedling about craving, a yearning, a pleading, each hunger laid upon a body, desires leaking from a glossy mouth, not just a lip of a container, but a glass, a canister, or a uterus waiting for a flag to be planted, waiting to welcome white wriggling tails embedding the porous orb. No one asks what a brain is made for, as if it's a jar of thoughts, until I hear that soft pink matter roll past Frank Ocean's full lips. Then I hear him question the mind as confinement, women as more than a slick entrance for a man's desire, her body and his desire, both their own sorts of traps. So few faces, and sometimes none, know the tumult within the arch and ebb of hormones, to carry a flesh face balanced deep inside, delicate, festooned with simple fallopian stems blooming into the dwindling ova. Too. So few white-haired white men in ties ever give a damn that they emerged like shiny green shoots unfurling from their mothers decades ago. So few women sit anywhere near chairs or microphones where the laws are signed and the judges stuff their ears with cotton and money to stifle the protesters' shouts and the ghost screams of girls slaughtered by coat hangers and greedy incompetence. Frank Ocean croons, "What is your woman? She is, or he is, not just a container. She enacts a sacrifice where choices may no longer be hers alone. She hopes you see her thinking, feeling personhood. No law changes how her soft pink matter is a layer, not just your favorite part, not the lacy curse foisted upon newborn girls, not the color lining her mouth or her most private and least protected areas. A woman's body, no river held back by gates or levees. She is not forest preserve, fenced, untouched. She is not to be cut down, her torso chopped and plain smooth for a hardware chain. No, her body is not a factory to replenish the populace. Soft pink matter links to mind over matter, and the law cannot change that any more than my determination to stare into the bottom of a glass, a vessel I will never be. Yeah. Should I do one more? Yeah, I won't read the title poem. That's sad. But this book was inspired, the title poem, by a poet in LA named Eric Priestley. So if you've never heard of him, he's definitely a part of Black literary history. Google him, check him out. He used to write me letters. He's a great guy. So this is a love poem, unrequited love poem, but we need a little love in the world. This is called Untitled for a reason. You ain't got no title for them because you ain't together. So it's like that. Yeah, but still, it's nice to know, oh, you woke something up. I'm not dead in there. All right. Untitled for a reason. You are curled under unconsummated kiss, folded into the violence of blueberries crushed between teeth, dying sugars of a once growing fruit, and I let it linger. Your hands map a body that requires no discovery nor conquest. You speak softened drama of fury and frenzy, quiet underbelly, light beaming into peaceful dark, interrupted by minor collisions bodies were built to withstand. You, looping daydreams and gasps silent under skin until partitions of distance and judgment lapse into surreptitious mist. You are the laugh that falls orange against my cheek and dries slight sweat cooling in the smallest fleck of imagination. You become a dream I needed to recall as muscles found new persistence, flexing in a crucible where the world expands beyond the steady scruff of sandpaper graded routine. You, small map unfolding, a globe that vanished within mundane block. You open a door with a word, if any, or a pause hanging like an ornament in your full smirk. Thank you.
All right, we have one more round of applause for Jen, Gina, and Tara.